Welcome to our Lunchtime Live program on WJEJ, a partnership the third Thursday of the month with Washington County Public Schools. Today's show is sponsored by Citizen Corps of Washington County. September is Preparedness Month, and Citizen Corps reminds all of us to be prepared for emergencies in our homes, businesses, and communities. Planning now can make all the difference. This year's Remembrance in the Park program will be held on Tuesday, September 8th at 6:30 p.m. at Hagerstown City Park. And Citizens Emergency Preparedness Day is Saturday, September 19th from 10 to 2 at Lowe's on Vasel Boulevard. Lots of activities and good information for families that day. Today's guests, Dr. Peggy Pugh, Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and Lura Hanks, Supervisor of English Language Arts and Social Studies for our school system. Welcome to the both of you.
Thank you for having us.
Lura, welcome. Your first time. It's got to be very exciting for you.
Very exciting. Yes.
As it is for us to have you. First couple of days of school as we're doing this live, both of you have been building administrators, have been principals, have a real touch with the building and the people and the energy on the first couple of days. Peggy, talk about that. Between the two of you, talk about the first days of school.
Well, I think you spend the whole summer planning about how to make this day go well for students, because first impressions are really important. The kids and the families just need to feel welcomed and feel a part of the community from the minute that they step in the door.
Yeah.
I agree that all the fine details need to be worked out prior to the start of school so that you can focus on welcoming and greeting families, making sure kids arrive to a smiling face, that they feel safe, and that they're part of a community.
What's in the bigger plan, the plan in buildings, what makes it a good start? I mean, aside from the energy and the smiles and the welcoming atmosphere and all of that, what makes a good start in those opening couple of weeks?
I think getting the students engaged in learning immediately really helps the students to, if they were nervous, take their mind off the fact that they were nervous. If they're judging their teacher for how the year may go, it gives them a real positive impression of what's going to happen in that classroom.
And our students come ready to learn. Many times they're anxious to see what the teacher's going to offer to them in the classroom. And so engaging them immediately, and this is what it's going to look like in our classroom, and setting up those routines for instruction and engaging the students right away makes them excited to be part of it.
Is it necessary to get right at, because we have so much to teach them, we don't joke about it anymore. It seems like the day is packed, not only from start to finish each day, but the whole school year, that what we're delivering to them has such depth and breadth and volume to it that we really don't have days that we can pass, or we can take it easy, or we can adjust to the start of a year. We have to get at it. Is that the case?
Exactly right. It's also a way to engage the students, because if they're just sitting back listening to their teachers on the first day about telling them about the routines, it's not their classroom. It needs to be developed together collaboratively in terms of the routines. And they do need to get started immediately, but because there's passion and excitement from their teacher about their content.
What's the approach in managing a teaching staff in the building? Right at the start. Obviously, you've met prior to literally the start of the school year, but what's that? What are the opening messages to the staff?
Well, the opening messages, you have to make sure that the school team and staff has a shared vision, that we are all going in the same direction. We have a plan, and everybody is on board, excited, enthusiastic. But that you're also offering opportunities for reflection regularly with teachers and communication, so that everybody feels, just like with students, part of the school community.
We build this to a great degree to talk about what we're teaching kids these days. What are we teaching kids these days? How do we decide what we're teaching? It sounds like a foolish question, but I mean, we're teaching them what we've always taught them, but has it varied greatly from just in the last couple of years over the last, say, generation of students? How would you describe our curriculum and how we approach our curriculum, Peggy?
Well, we're preparing students for a different world. So what we're asking them to engage in is very complex and very deep, and often what we're asking them to do, their parents haven't seen or didn't see at the level that our students are seeing it. So that's challenging, but I do think that what we're doing is trying to, as you said, pack as much as you can in that course to be run that you have with students between all of the content areas and all of the subject areas, so that when students leave us, that they have true choice and that they can go into a career if that's what they choose to do, or go to college, and they're ready to do so. They have some thinking skills as well as some content knowledge.
What do we base what we deliver to them on? How do we prepare what we're delivering to them?
Well, the work that we're doing currently started last year in elementary schools, but it was largely brought on by the standards movement when we started to adopt national standards for what was appropriate to be taught at what level. And we've been working on that now to integrate those standards, because there are lots of sets of standards out there: disciplinary literacy, technology education, career technology education, math, science, English, social studies. And we feared that it was becoming, again, a mile wide and not very deep. And the work that we're doing, this backwards design process, is designed to help us keep in the forefront of our minds what it is we want students to be able to do at the end of their time with us, and therefore prioritize what we feel are some of the more rigorous and complex standards, that if you can do those things, you're actually encompassing some of the other standards as well.
Wait, go back to the term backwards design. Explain that.
By backwards design, you are identifying enduring goals, these long-term things and skills. For example, you'd like a student to be able to write well for any given situation, any audience, for any purpose. It's important in your adult life to be able to communicate in writing. So we take that sort of enduring understanding that we want all students to do and map backwards so that students have regular and routine opportunities to do so, as well as more rich and deep content to work with.
The whole communication piece, writing, English language arts, all of that. Do you sit in like commandeer meetings of all the curriculum folks because you're more important than anybody else, Laura? Is that?
I'd like to think so, but no.
Yeah, right. Right.
What
You'd
is?
actually like to do that too, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would. I haven't been given
Excuse
permission.
me, folks. Could you all sit back because it's my meeting?
You're not far off, though, of seeing that the shift in English language arts and social studies are critical components to all student thinking and those desired results that we want when students graduate, because the impact of the English language arts on every other content area is that it's not a list of skills, and it's not a list of books that students have read by the time they finish high school. It's what are the common themes, what are the messages in text, what are the multiple ways that students can communicate their own understanding after studying how other authors have done that. And the change in the way we communicate these days is so much more than just writing an essay or a book report. It's being able to develop a presentation, being able to engage in a blog with other folks that have read the same material. It's being able to think about what I know now after reading this text and blending it with what I already know. And our students are beyond the point of needing a list of skills. They can Google, just a skill. They can Google a single bit of knowledge. It's what do you do with that knowledge once you have it, and how do you communicate that with others?
Is there an equal share of communicating with parents just like you do with kids? Because, as you mentioned, Peggy, I'm not sure that there's whatever the percentage is of parents who don't even feel comfortable in engaging the teaching staff, engaging principals or other folks in the school system on what their kids are being taught, because they're off the track compared to what when they went to school. And even young parents, this has changed dramatically in the last 7, 10, 12 years.
It definitely has, and even these well-meaning parents who are supporting their students and trying to help with a skill such as math, And in being cognizant of that, we try to do a lot of communicating and learning informational things for parents, typically at the school level. But on a district level, we've purchased some softwares that will now allow us to share videos of those actual contents being taught. Some of the trouble spots that students may have in a particular content area, we can make available to the students and therefore to the parents a video of someone actually teaching that beyond the school day, so that it's something that can reinforce and support what they're learning in school.
Have we changed in midstream almost too frequently? The standards changed, the way we approach things, the way we create our own local angle on curriculum. How long does it take to really establish that? Because it's the old criticism, the old saw. Well, we just started something new 3 years ago, but boy, now we're retooling it, and it's going to take us a year to get up and running, or two, or how much of a problem is that?
Well, that's exactly why we want to start with the long-term desired results, because those are the things that should be the threaded theme through all content areas, all subject areas, pre-K to 12, so that you're constantly working on those things that are priority. And our hope is that by not focusing on a single assessment of skills, that we're really focused on preparing students for their futures. And we're not locked in. It wouldn't matter tomorrow if the test changed, because what we've selected for our students to work on is truly good and important work to focus on.
If you're just joining us, this is Lunchtime Live with Washington County Public Schools and WJEJ, the third Thursday of the month at this time. Dr. Peggy Pugh and Lura Hanks are guests today. Our show is sponsored by Citizen Corps of Washington County, with a couple of key dates in Preparedness Month in September. Tuesday, September 8th at 6:30 p.m. It's this year's Remembrance in the Park at Hagerstown City Park, and Citizens Emergency Preparedness Day, Saturday, September 9th. Everybody's invited, from 10 to 2 at Lowe's on Vasel Boulevard here in Hagerstown. If you want to talk with Peggy and Lura, our phone line is always open, 301-739-2323 here at the radio station. Are we in some transition now, or do we confidently have curriculum, we have things in place, and we're rolling with momentum, with foundation, with all of those things?
We have many good things that are in place. What we're engaging in right now is the work to put all of that together so that it is streamlined, so that we can guarantee that if your student is in third grade, they'll have these learning experiences regardless of school. So we're still working on unifying some of those experiences. The elementary is a little further along. They began this work in December of last year and worked with teachers to come up with these cornerstone tasks that would assess where a student is on that developmental level. And this year we'll be implementing those. But again, we believe in the process of talking about the standards, making sure that we have the most priority standards, making sure that people understand what those standards are asking students to be able to do. To me, that process is a trusted process. Everything that I know is telling me that's a good process for curriculum development. And the rest of the revision in our products, that will continue as we get feedback from students, as we get feedback from teachers, as we answer questions ourselves. So we've started there, and we're moving in grades 6 through 12 this year is our focus. We're having a secondary task force begin that same process that the elementary went through last year.
Do we discuss and plan and execute all locally, or do we get input from elsewhere? Do we ever? Is it all local staff involved in the discussions? Do we have anybody from outside come in and work with us?
Well, I do believe that locally we have some experts. Mm-hmm. We can't ignore the fact that there is a world outside of Washington County, and we've got to make sure that we are in the right place in that world. And therefore, we do seek out the experts in the field, proven experts who've shown success. And I think we celebrated this year having Jay McTighe, who is world-renowned for his work in curriculum and backward mapping. He came and spoke to all administrators. His company worked with our team to create the cornerstone tasks, and he'll be returning to work with us. And what is exciting about that is that the process brings us a little further every time we meet with him. So every time we get to talk to him or, consultants that work with him, we're able to bring different new questions. Because the goal, too, in what we're doing is these assessments aren't a summative measure that says we've done well or we've done poorly. It's what have our children achieved and what can they understand and how do we adjust our teaching and our work to meet those needs of the children. So we expect that, as you said, what's expected of students, that end result, should remain the same, that they can be successful when they move into careers or jobs or military. What may change is the resources we use to get there.
Will there ever be a time where the assessments truly are less, there will be less attention to them? I mean, is that just a cultural change that'll never happen, a community change that'll never happen? Because we have to specifically measure it somehow. I mean, we have to give them I say to be flip, but I mean, we have to give them a test and we have to keep score.
Right.
We have to have something in black and white.
Right, and there are expectations that the community the state has in terms of what those tests will be in order to demonstrate, in order to award a diploma that says that you've successfully completed high school. So there are mandated assessments that we take, and those are the external assessments that we take. And because they're changing, these PARC assessments are relatively new. They haven't been as high stakes for staff or for students, for that matter, at this point, because we haven't been able to get the data back yet to really make an analysis and an adjustment. But we do know they're rigorous. We know they're difficult. We know they're challenging. They're asking students to think critically and creatively in ways that they haven't before. Previously, it was an assessment of a single item and a matched score, and now it's multiple standards in one question. So it's a little bit more challenging. What I would like to do is really focus on these formative assessments. We don't want assessments to become a bad word, because we're looking at them in terms of a checkpoint on progress of our kids. It's not whether the student has arrived or not arrived. It's a matter of what do we still need to do, because we're going to get them there.
Is the teaching staff prepared to guide kids towards a different way of learning, and ultimately producing results from that learning? For instance, critical thinking, as opposed to multiple choice answers in a stock test like that.
Yeah, we've spent a lot of time working with teachers, and as Dr. Pugh mentioned, with elementary last year, but the concept of transfer. And that's what we're looking at right now, and these cornerstone tasks will do is, if we've taught students what they need to know at this particular level in their education, what can they do with that information when you remove the teacher from the picture? And that's the important piece that we're all working on now and moving towards, so that at the elementary level, naturally, as elementary educators, we want to support students. When you look at them and you see them struggle, we want to step in and help them. And then sometimes that does more harm. And it's that finding that fine balance where we're supporting our students, but we're letting them take risks in their own education. And so that concept of transfer is, I'm going to teach you these things, we're going to engage in these things, but this is what, if you can do it, this is what it's going to look like.
What are the extra challenges in English language arts, the broader picture of literacy, not only in the school system but in the community? Do you feel any extra? You don't seem like a pressure-packed person, so but I'll say it in a professional way, in a school system way. Are there additional challenges just because of the focus on literacy and English language arts?
Well, there absolutely is, because literacy isn't really just a subject in school. And when we talk about literacy, we're talking about an age of digital literacy, where what does it mean when our students are equipped with all these devices and they're getting information far quicker than a teacher can pass it along to a student? So that's a whole new challenge of pressure. And what does that mean to English language arts instruction in the schools? So you've got digital literacy, and then you have that quality literature that you want students to engage in, and how do you make meaning for students like that? So understanding that our students are coming from all different pathways, and we all want a single outcome that says they're going to be successful when they graduate. And so I think the pressure is identifying where students are, and that knowing that if I have a classroom of 25 students, they're in 25 different places.
Yeah. If you're just joining us, again, today's Lunchtime Live program is sponsored by Citizen Corps of Washington County. September is Preparedness Month, and Citizen Corps reminds all of us to be prepared for emergencies in our homes, businesses, and communities, because planning now can make all the difference. Dr. Peggy Pugh is our Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction, and Lura Hanks joins us today as the Supervisor of English Language Arts and Social Studies with Washington County Public Schools. What do you hope? What does this year? Is this year significant? This 15, 16, this school year. how would you characterize this year going into it, what we hope to accomplish from now till June?
Well, both Laura and I are new to our positions, so we're very excited and hopeful that the work that we've put in this summer with our teams is going to positively impact the experiences that our students have in school, so that they're engaged in their own learning. And, we continue to learn and adjust as well. We hope to engage parents at the same level and community members as we do the work. So what I'm excited about this year in particular is that we have work to do, quite a bit of it, and that we've started on a pathway that I think that we have faith in.
What's on your checklist? What are some of the bullet points in your top 10 of as you look at this first month, this first part of the school year? What's on that list?
Trust me, you don't want to see that list.
Yeah. No, I realize.
Really
I realize it's about a mile and a half long.
So top 10. It's probably the most immediate need that comes first, and that varies depending on the day. But if you're asking me what I'm working towards and what I feel strongly about that will move this county forward, is building the capacity in our teachers. And by doing that, we have to plan backwardly for them, so that the experiences that they have prepare them for what they're going to do. And an example of that would be, in this first marking period, our students will take their first cornerstone assessment in the elementary schools. We really want to use the data to adjust instruction. And so our plan is to work with teachers and principals and lead teachers to share with them a process to analyze the data for students and to actually visually see the change of what you had planned to do, and now based upon what students have demonstrated they can or cannot do, that you will adjust. So you'll either repeat something, do it differently again the next marking period, or if they've demonstrated they know it, you'll remove it. So being very fluid with, there's no prescribed second marking period. We will do in the second marking, we have a framework. Right. We have those priority standards are mapped out, and we believe we have a great plan for students, but within that plan there's enough flexibility to adjust to what they tell us in those first assessments.
I can't wait for that weekend. Results are in at the end of the day Friday, and then everybody goes 48 hours straight, and all of a sudden Monday we have kicked in the amended look at things. But I think a lot of folks have the age-old impression that when you get, the classical scenario, you get test results back, but you don't get them till like the spring, and then you can't impact change till the next school year. This is far from on the fly. That's a little too much of a light description, but it's, if you're talking marking period to marking period and making quality adjustments, that's as good as it gets, I think.
It is, and we have a resource right now. It's called School City, which is kind of a...
I'm sorry.
School City. It is online. It is in the tech world. But it is like a database warehouse, and tech people might shoot me down for the terms that I may have wrong. But essentially it houses our goal is that it will house these cornerstone assessments, but make the manipulation of that information much easier for teachers. And so that, with a few clicks of a button, we can see, well, this group of students struggle to do this particular standard, but we're very strong in this one. And what we're doing is we're trying to make work smarter, not harder, to say, I don't need to teach all 27 standards this week to all 25 students. I can really, so the time spent looking at the student work rather than spending all this time grading it, we're hoping School City is going to help us to do that, but that really looking at the student performance and what they can do is going to be the focus of the teachers' attention.
How long is that, the analysis and the adjustments and all of that? What is that, a week? A weekend? Is it...
Yes, Will.
I meant to be... Yeah, okay. Because there's no time. It's not, you don't get like a fall break where everybody gets 3 or 4 days off to analyze data and make changes and get at it. We're back in school on Monday morning.
We've planned it to coincide with the end of the marking period and with the professional days that you have at that time. That's when we'll model it. That is with the assumption that everyone has scored their all assessments are in, every child has taken it. Then we'll walk them through a process to actually look at the data. And of course, there'll be work that they'll need to do to adjust, but they'll walk out of the time with us knowing what that is.
We're closing in on the last couple of minutes. I didn't want to get away without a little bit more in-depth discussion about, particularly here at the start of the year, both of you having experience in this particular arena, which is parent involvement. Making sure that parents, aren't intimidated out of their gorge just listening to us today. And I think we've brought it down to understandable terms. It's tough. I mean, it's tough to be a parent of a student in a system where it's constantly evolving. We have such great expectations for the kids every day. But we don't want to leave the parents behind. How can we continue to involve the parents?
I think we need to keep our communication open and often with parents of this is what the goals are that we want your child to do. During this marking period, or even to the classroom, there's lots of teachers who say this week, this is what we're working on this week. And to be able to say, this is what we hope your child will be able to understand at the end of the week. And encouraging parents to ask those questions if they don't have the information, because the students may bring that paper home or they may not. Right. And so if a parent hasn't received that communication from the school, we encourage them to call and ask the teacher, what is it you want my child to do? And to frame it that way, maybe. What is it that you want my child to do this week?
But that's expected of the staff, too. The staff, by routine, is getting that information out to the parents so that maybe, in addition to that, following up and offering the possibility of contacting
and
the
not
teachers
being afraid to call.
Exactly.
We understand, and every educator understands that there's a whole language associated with education that people that aren't in education may not understand. Right. We call it the jargon. And making sure that if we're getting overwhelmed with the jargon, that as a parent, say, I don't understand what you're saying, and not feeling bad about asking that question.
Peggy, final word.
Final word, we're really excited to have a year when we know we're rebuilding. We know we're working together, working hard for the students, helping the families to understand, helping each other to understand what it is that we're trying to do. But I feel like there's an energy behind it. Teachers are positive about it. The smiles that I saw on students' faces yesterday indicated that they were excited to walk into a school building where the first thing they did was get to work in a way that appeared to be play to them in many ways. So I just think I'm hoping that we can use that energy as we continue to work on our curriculum.
Very good. Thank you two very much. I appreciate you being part of the show today. Dr. Peggy Pugh is Associate Superintendent for Curriculum and Instruction. Lura Hanks is Supervisor of English Language Arts and Social Studies. Today's show has been sponsored by Citizen Corps of Washington County. September is Preparedness Month, and Citizen Corps reminds all of us to be prepared for emergencies in our homes, businesses, and communities. Planning now can make all the difference. Mark these events on your calendar. This year's Remembrance in the Park program will be held on Tuesday, September 8th at 6:30 p.m. at Hagerstown City Park. And Citizens Emergency Preparedness Day, open to everybody, is Saturday, September 19th from 10 to 2 at Lowe's on Basil Boulevard. This is Lunchtime Live, the third Thursday of the month at this time on WJEJ.